Hi guys, I hope that you're having a good Friday today. If you have to work this weekend like I do, I hope that it's a good weekend for all of us and that we can continue to be the vessels that is using to bring help to others. And sometimes, sometimes we are the ones that can bring a little bit of the Bible and the word to them. So just be aware of those like obvious opportunities that God may put out there for you. And then because sometimes it happens, sometimes there's one little thing and you're like, oh, this is an opportunity to talk about Jesus, or and the Holy Spirit will guide you through that. So just something to have in mind. All right, so today we're gonna go ahead and read chapter 3 of our book 30 Days to Understanding the Bible. And today we're basically talking about the historical books. So it's a little bit shorter today because there's a lot of review and a lot of areas where we have to like actually sit down and write things. So in terms of what I'm gonna be reading, it's a little bit shorter, okay? So again, let me know before we start, let me know if there's anything else I can do for you, if you would like for me to cover something that I haven't covered yet. Or clarify something, since I'm pretty much just reading the book. The reason why I'm doing it this way, it's because sometimes, for example, if I get too busy, I can listen to something in the background while I'm doing something else. So this is an opportunity, like you don't have to sit down and watch me talking or reading the book. You can just keep me in the background and then do whatever you need to do while listening to the book, okay? So I was going to say something else and then I forgot. Oh yeah, prayer requests. So don't forget to send me your prayer requests, okay? If there's anything I can pray for you, please, please, please make a comment. Let me do that for you, okay? All right, guys. So chapter 3, it's about historical books. And here we go. Okay, it says, on the flight from Los Angeles to Portland, one flies over the entire length of the Cascade Mountains. From 35,000 feet, it is difficult to get the perspective to determine which are the higher mountain peaks. The closer peaks look taller, while the distant peaks look shorter, regardless of their actual height. One day in late October, I was making that flight. The air was crisp and clear after a light snowfall, and the puzzle of how to differentiate the higher from the lower peaks was answered. The snow only fell on elevations of about 7,000 feet and higher. As we flew over them, regardless of how close or how far away they were, the highest peaks were easy to determine. They were the ones with snow on them. As we begin to look into the stories of the Old Testament, we will only look at the highest peaks, the ones with snow on them. To do so, it will be helpful to continue the analogy with the story of the United States. If you were going to condense just the story of the United States, omitting the poets and philosophers, you would take the main periods of history, link them with the central historic figure of the era, and add the primary location. In a short form, it might look like this. So let me show you the timeline here so you have an idea of what they're talking about. Okay, so it has a timeline of the United States history. It has a key figure, for example, Franklin, Jefferson, Jackson, Lincoln. So our presidents. And then the historical period, the colonial period, the Revolutionary War, Federal period, Civil War, and so on. And then the key location, Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, so on. So it says, include a brief storyline summary of the era, and the story of the United States could be overviewed in that chart, such as follow. So, sorry, my nose is itchy. So here's another little table, and it has the key era, for example, colonial, and then it has the key figure, Franklin, and then it has the location, Boston, and then it explains to you the storyline, okay? For example, it says, as the 13 colonies long for independence, Franklin leads in the formulation of necessary strategy. So that's an example of the Bible, of the table. All right, so it says, this same approach can be used in condensing the story of the Bible. So basically putting all those, main periods on a table and the central figures and the locations, then you can put a little bit of a paragraph of what happened during that time. Then we can have like a better idea of what the Old Testament is looking for. Give me 1 second, let me sneeze. Sorry about that. All right, so the storyline of the Bible can be divided into 12 main eras, with the central figure and main location for each era. 9 of them are found in the Old Testament, and 3 are found in the New Testament. All right, in this chapter, we will deal with only the Old Testament, and we'll complete only the first 3 aspects of it: the main eras, the central figures, and the main location. The summary study line and the New Testament event will be added in the following chapters. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and mention the 9 eras of the Old Testament. All right, so the first one, as many of us, can guess, it's the creation. That's where we start in Genesis, right? So the creation of the world and the man and early events. Okay, so that's era number 1, creation. Era number 2, patriarch. The birth of the Hebrew people through a family of patriarchs, covering a period of 200 years. Next period, it's Exodus. The exodus of the people, of the Hebrew people, as they are delivered out of the 400 years of slavery in Egypt. That's intense. That's so crazy. Like, just imagine that. I mean, we're going crazy with a pandemic that it's been going on like, what, a year now? So imagine being a slave for 400 years. That's crazy. So, yes, so the Hebrew people was delivered out of slavery in Egypt to return to their promised land. Conquest. So the conquest of the promised land by the Hebrew people upon their return from Egypt. After conquest, so that's 4. Number 5, 5th era, it's Judges. A 400-year period during which Israel is governed by rulers called judges. Era number 6, kingdom. An additional 400-year period during which Israel is a full-fledged nation ruled by monarchy. All right, so era number 7, exile. Exile is a 70-year period during which Israel leaders live in exile, having been conquered by foreign powers. 9, return. The return of exiled Jews to Jerusalem to build the city and the temple. And number 9, it's silence. A final 400-year period between the close of the Old Testament, when the last book of the Old Testament was written, and the opening of the New Testament, when the first book of the New Testament was written. Now it gives you, it says follow the pattern on the chart. So let me show you the table that they're starting to form here. So it says story of the Old Testament, and then it has the eras, and then it lists them there. Then the figure here, that's gonna be added later, location later, storyline later, okay? Now, it says another way to help us remember the historical storyline of the Bible is to visualize the main eras with symbols. And then here in the next page, we have an arc Can you see that? All right, so it starts here, it goes all the way here. So these are the 9 eras of the Old Testament, the 3 ones of the new one, which we're gonna go ahead and talk later. And then all of them, like number 1, creation, number 2, patriarch. So they have little symbols here. And then I had added already on my little notes the time here just to help me out to just, comprehend a little bit when it comes to timelines. So when we are starting to like study the Bible, like take your time. I'm sorry, like I'm fighting with the light. There you go. So take your time because it's a lot of information. It's not innate. So it can be a little bit overwhelming. And really, like sometimes if you just read things just to read it through, then nothing sticks. And it's like you really don't really get the magnitude of what happened. Like again, like I imagine that like the pandemic, it's only been a year and we're going crazy and there's so much happening with health, jobs, economy. Like there's so much happening, and if you think back then, it's like imagine 400 years of slavery. I mean, we still have slavery right now, but that's another topic. But like when you read about it, go back and try to imagine. It's like, okay, these people didn't have cars, they didn't have machines, they didn't have computers, they didn't have this, they didn't have a lot of things that we have right now. So imagine the sacrifice and every single little thing that they went through. And that's how we actually like get to acknowledge, it's like, oh my God, what they went through, what Jesus went through, that's crazy. So yeah, just take your time, enjoy the process, okay? And okay, so next there's a review. Basically it's a little match here, and then you can put, it has spaces here so you can match the numbers. And then we're gonna go ahead and talk about the 9 central figures, okay? So for the era of the creation, then, as we know, the figure it's Adam, it's the first man. Patriarch, the figure it's Abraham, he's the first patriarch. Exodus, Moses, that's the leader of Exodus. Conquest, we have Joshua. Joshua was the leader of the Israel army. Judges, we have Samson, that's the most famous judge. Kingdom, we have David, the most well-known Israelite, there we go, king. And then for exile, the figure it's Daniel. So Daniel was the major prophet during the exile. Return, we have Ezra, which is the main leader of the return. And for silence, we have the Pharisees, the religious leaders of the Jew. On the next page, it's another review. Okay, so I'm just showing you there so you know what it looks like. And then we're gonna talk about the storyline. Okay, so we're gonna start adding the storyline to the, we're talking about location first. We're gonna read location and then we're gonna do give a description of it, okay? So for creation, we have Adam, right? The location is the Eden. So the Garden of Eden, where Adam is created near the convergence of the twin rivers, okay? We talked about that yesterday. So the patriarch era, the figure was Abraham. Location is Canaan or Canaan. I talked about that pronunciation yesterday. I'm still kind of iffy about it. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it properly, but anyways. So Abraham migrates from Ur near Eden to Canaan, where he and the other patriarchs lived until the time of slavery in Egypt. Then for Exodus, again, we have the figure Moses. Location is Egypt. During a severe famine, the Israelites migrate to Egypt, and they are enslaved 400 years before their exodus to freedom. The era of conquest, we have Joshua. This happens in Canaan. Joshua leads the conquest of the promised land in Canaan. Give me 1 second. Let me look that up again. It's driving me crazy. Canaan. I think it's Canaan. Canaan. Just sounds like dog. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. I'm sorry. I'm gonna look into that today. So for the next video, hopefully I know the proper pronunciation. All right. So next era, it's Judges. We have Samson as figure. Also in Canaan. The Israelites live in Canaan or Canaan. That place. Under a loose tribal system ruled by judges for the next 400 years. The next era, it's kingdom. Then we have David, right? So David, this occurs in Israel. So remember, this is the same place, it just changes names, okay? So with the formation of a formal monarchy, the land is now referred to by the national name of Israel. All right, so the exile happens with Daniel in Babylonia. Because of the judgment for national moral corruption, Israel is conquered by foreign nations, finally forcing her leaders into 70 years of exile in Babylonia. The return, once we're out, we want to go back. Return happens with Ezra in Jerusalem, so we're just going back to the same place. And then same area. Let me go back to the map real quick. I'm sorry, I have these little parentheses because I feel like when I'm studying, like I have to like have that second to go back so I know what I'm talking about, you know, so like my brain starts remembering, okay? So let me go here to the little map here. So if you can see, let me see, is that better? All right, so here we have Canaan, which is Israel. Then this is Egypt, you know, they go back to Canaan. Then Babylonia, it's all the way over here. And then Jerusalem down here. So when I said the same area, I meant this area right here, okay? But you can start seeing how they're moving across, and this is not easy because this is walking. So imagine, I can only imagine the heat, the thirst, the hunger, just walking, you know, no cars, no AC, carrying food, carrying children, you know, no good shoes. So yeah, that's pretty intense. All right, so going back here, so we're talking about return era with Ezra, and then they go to Jerusalem. The exiled Israelites are allowed to return to Jerusalem to rebuild the city and the temple, though they remain under the dominion of Persia. And then the last era was silence. We have the Pharisees as a figure. This happens in Jerusalem as well. The dominion of the land changes from Persia to Greece to Rome. Israel is allowed to worship in Jerusalem without disruption for the next 400 years of silence. All right. So the next page, we have the table again with the summary of what we just learned. We also have an arc of the Bible history. That way we can actually fill out those little spaces that would match the era with the symbol. So that's just a little bit more practice. The next page is an overview of what we went over yesterday, which is basically what I just showed you guys. These maps, and it shows you where they started and how they move back and forth. Okay. Next page, there's more review, more tables for us to fill out. And the last page of this chapter is a self-test. And basically it's a table that comes completely empty for us to write all the areas with their figures, with their locations, and storyline will be done later. And that's all for today, guys. So, yeah, so just take the time to sit down and read it, and like just do the test, the little tables. That it helps me to sit down and write. Whenever you have something in your mind, you're looking at it, you're reading it, read it out loud. That helps too. And then write it. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead. 20 minutes now. I know I go into tangents sometimes, but I just like, whenever I feel like there's a little tip that may help, then I like to go ahead and give it. All right, so let's go ahead and close in prayer, and then I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay, all right. Dear Lord, thank you so very much for another opportunity to come and have this study night together. Thank you for allowing me to do this. Thank you for giving me a voice and eyes and ears. And then just thank you. Thank you for allowing me to read and spread the word and help others to come to you and understand your word and your book. Lord, I thank you because the week is over. I thank you for everything that you do through us, even when we're not even aware of it. Sometimes people come back and say like, hey, you were a blessing and we didn't even know. So thank you, Lord, for using us. I want to pray for anybody that needs an unspoken prayer right now, anybody that is going through a financial situation, a health situation, mental issue situation, or any other concern or struggle. Lord, I just ask you that you please be with them, give them strength and guide them. If they're looking for answers, just guide them to the answer that you want to provide to them. I want to thank you for the days that are going to come this weekend, and hopefully we can continue blessing others, Lord. I love you, Lord. Can't wait to see you, Lord. All of this I pray in your sweet name, Jesus. Amen. Mwah. Bye, guys. See you tomorrow.